Hi, friends. It's Stephanie Kirk here. Tonight, we're going to talk about improving your scores. And specifically, we're going to look at timed practice and how that might benefit you. We're going to give it just about another minute to see if we have anybody join us. But for right now, tonight, we wanted to try something a little bit new to try to get some interaction going. And we're not quite sure how it's going to work, but we wanted to see. So if you look over in the chat, we have a link for you. So if you could click that link, it's going to open up an interactive lesson. So you could take a minute and click that and join us. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But of course, if anybody joins in, then we'll join in and see how it works for us. So I'm actually controlling this on a separate computer so that we can see back and forth kind of how it goes. But how are you doing tonight? Anything in the chat? How you doing? Having a great day? Excited about talking about this? Excellent. So what we're going to look at tonight is another Think Fiveable element. Now, of course, we are very excited about helping you reach your personal goals on all of our AP areas, but of course in AP Lang, because that's where we are tonight. So please make sure you're following us on social media. We are at Think Fiveable, and we have a lot of great elements that are put out there, but we also put a tweet or a heads up out about many of our different streams that you might want to follow and participate in. And then, of course, you can send us messages if you have ideas for other streams that you think we might should try. So, questions so far? All right. So we're going to go ahead and I want to start with a poll for you. So how often do you Fiveable? How often do you Fiveable? Is it your first time? Have you done it 2 or 3 times? You do it weekly? Are you all over it in a lot of different subject areas? Where do you fall? Hey guys, those of you just joining us, if you would click that link over in the chat, we're going to try something a little bit new tonight. And that link is going to help you join in. We have a poll, so I'll give it just another minute so we can see. Just quickly, we're curious, how often are you using Fiveable? Another little minute there. If you see that link, so you can join us. All right, we'll go ahead and jump on over. So it looks like we kind of have a broad range. Like I use it weekly. Now that blank one is my computer because obviously you're using the student view on the computer there to kind of see that. So we've got someone who's using it weekly and someone who's used it 2 or 3 times. So hopefully you like it and you kind of come back and join us with it as we go along. So tonight we're going to start talking about what we're looking at with our scores and how we can increase it with timing. But I wanted to give you a heads up on some of the exciting information that we do have coming your way. After the stream, I will send an email with some links so that you can go ahead and join into some of these streams and reserve your place. And then, of course, it'll send you an email with the link. Super easy and exciting to join. First, we are looking at rhetorical analysis. It's a great way to go through this little mini series with us. And so you'll see that on the 21st, we're looking at identifying what's worth analyzing. On the 23rd, we're going to look at introduction paragraphs for the rhetorical analysis. On the 30th, you're going to look at the October events to be aware of. And it's always a great idea to study the current events and to kind of know what's going on with that. On the 4th, we're going to look at body paragraphs. And then on the 7th, we're going to do the November article of the month. And that's a very exciting opportunity to just kind of jump in and join with that. And then, of course, we have the live feedback so that you can jump in. And this one, I'm excited. I'm going to jump in and join on this one too. And then, of course, on the 14th, we're going to be looking at conclusions as well. So a lot of exciting things going on in the next little bit. So What is our intention for today? So, if we look at our intention for today, our goal is that through the review of the test logistics and the pacing strategies, you're going to be able to increase your score on the exam. We want you to have a goal and to work towards that goal. And by taking it step by step, we're hoping that we can help you make that test more approachable, but also to recognize the skills that you have on your side that are going to help you along the way and to kind of help check that test anxiety that we all kind of get sometimes. So, are you with me? Excellent. So, I do have a few sources here for you that I think will be helpful. And as I click onto the next screen, they should open up in a new tab for you. So you don't have to look at them right now, but I do think it's a valuable piece of information to have it. Okay. So the first thing is the course and exam description. Now, this is intended for teachers, but I think it's a valid resource for anybody to have. You can go through it, you can look at it. It gives a lot of information. It is updated regularly. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it's updated regularly. This year, though, we've had a few updates kind of come along the way, and that has been very helpful for us as teachers. And so you have that option as well. Then the next thing I wanted you to have is just a general overview of the course and the information that goes with it, just so that you have a heads up of what's there. It does tell you to sign into AP Classroom, so that's going to take you to the teacher side if you're a teacher, or it's going to take you to the student side if you're a student. And if your teacher hasn't got you set up on AP Classroom yet, jump in, join in, ask about it. Tell them that you kind of want that resource because it's a powerful thing to have. I know I've enjoyed it and the data that I get from it with my own students. Okay, so now you've got these resources. Any questions for me so far? Okay, we're going to move right along. For tonight, we've talked about our learning intention. The first thing that we want to look at is why timed practice? Why do we do that? Why is this test timed? I know that my students talk about why does it have to be timed? I could probably do better if I had all the time in the world, but we want to look at the benefits of untimed practice and timed practice as we go through the night. Then we're going to review the logistics of the multiple choice test, and we're going to look at some strategies and then pretend plan that you can come up with for your own personal data. And then we're going to jump on over into the FRQ with the test logistics and then some strategies there. So at any point, if you have any questions, you're welcome to add them down at the bottom. You can comment in the chat at any time, and I'll stop and talk about whatever questions it is that you have. So here we go. When you are looking at timed, or when you are looking at practice in general, what do you prefer? Do you prefer timed practice or do you prefer untimed practice? What do you think? So if you'll go down there, type, share your thoughts, kind of let us know what you're thinking. Which one do you tend to prefer? Okay, time, so know what to expect. Any other thoughts? Any thoughts you want to put in the chat window? If you don't want to put them up here, it's completely anonymous though. Time, some pressure to do it. Absolutely. We definitely know that when we have a test that's timed, it is helpful to put ourselves in situations where we can look at whether or not it is timed as well, because by simulating that experience, it does really help us. But have you ever wondered how well you would do if you tried an untimed practice? Have you ever thought the possibility that an untimed practice might help you identify structures and strategies that are going to help you in the timed event? That's something that we're going to talk about tonight. So we've got a lot of little ideas that can kind of help us out along the way. So everybody seems to like timed, but maybe I'm going to make you at least think of something new here in just a moment. I'm going to challenge you to start out, especially in a year-long class, with untimed practice. And that may sound counterintuitive to what you're looking at, but hear me out, okay? First of all, the reading is challenging. And as you start, you're going to be in a very different place at the beginning of the semester than you are at the end of the semester, or even at the end of the year if you're blessed to have a year-long course. So the questions are challenging as well. Sometimes my students tell me, they're like, Ms. Kirk, I don't even know what this is asking me. And that's a very fair, very legitimate thing to think. Have you guys ever thought that? I mean, I definitely have looked at questions myself and really had to process it. And so untimed practice can really let you focus on breaking down that question stem because the question stems tend to repeat. So if you start out by an untimed practice where you're breaking down those question stems and you're truly able to identify what they're looking for or what they want you to do, then you're going to do a better job along the way in a timed situation. So you're learning the question types, you're learning the strategies you can use with each question type, and that can be a very beneficial thing. It's going to also help you focus on the process. Some students will read the question and then scan the passages and try to answer it that way. And maybe for some people that works. That's not my strategy. I like to go through and just kind of have a general idea of what I'm looking at. And you know how the book opens up and when it opens, you've got your passage and your questions, and then they repeat the passage and they use so much paper doing that? It's intentional because what you can do is as you progress through the questions on this side over here that has the text, you just flip it and you don't lose your annotations. If you read the entire passage on that front side and you annotate on that front side, then you still end up doing this number back and forth, and that's time that's wasted. You don't want to do that. So if you focus on that process, it's going to verify your answer and build your confidence moving forward. What do you think about that? All right. It helps you to see your performance without excuses. Sometimes one of the most challenging things about learning is that we need to learn from our mistakes, but we have to be willing to be vulnerable in order to let that learning happen. So when we take it, we often think, myself included, oh, if I had 10 more minutes, I could have finished the test. Or I probably guessed on too many because I didn't think I was going to have time. So when we're thinking about those elements, it does create a struggle for us. But if we can actually take our time and process through it, we can see what our true performance is without that excuse in the back of our mind, like, what if I had more time? Does that seem realistic? Have you done that before? Okay, so then it can help you to identify the time bandits. Now, I remember when I was in school, and this was true for any multiple choice test that I had to take. If I knew it was timed and I saw that my answer choices were like 2 lines or more, I was like, what, time bandit? Not even going to try. But I am now able to look back and think that some of those might have been the easiest questions on the assessment. So by going through and looking at it in an untimed manner, breaking down the question, identifying the question stems, I now know which type of question stem I can answer in 30 seconds without looking back at the text, and which one I might need 2 minutes and I might need to check back at the text. And that's a powerful tool when you move into the timed practice later. Of course, it will help you to master quick analysis. Since those question stems do tend to repeat, you're going to be able to look at it to recognize what the stem's asking you and go forward with it. And of course, it'll help you build a quicker plan as you move forward. So, what do you now think about the idea of an untimed practice? You think it might be something worthwhile? Something worth giving it a try? We do want to focus on timed practice as well, though, okay? And the number one reason, and this caps is intentional, the number one reason that I want you to focus on timed practice is your academic stamina, because you've got to do a lot right there, all of a sudden, jammed together as one thing. You've got to do your multiple choice, you're going to get a very short break, and then you got to come back in, read all of this stuff, and write 3 essays. And that's a lot. So the timed practice gives you that academic stamina. By simulating the testing environment, you're going to be able to deal with the anxiety of it a little bit better. For example, maybe your teacher does like high stress weeks and then kind of backs off, or does a lot of really engaged analytical stuff and then kind of does a group project for a day or two. And so that same process is going to give you strategies for anxiety as you move toward taking the test, if that's something that you face. You also will know your personal pacing on the different question types. And that's a valuable thing. I talked about it on the last slide. I know which types of questions are going to take me very short amount of time. Those are generally the knowledge type ones that have very little inference and that sort of thing. But I know that if it's an analytical one where I have to look at different places and put those pieces together, it's going to take me a few more minutes. I can identify that by the STEM. And where I know I can save time, that gives me seconds that I can bank on another question. It'll also help me know when to Sesame Street. If I'm looking at my timed practice, I've identified my time bandits and the question types that take me longer than the other types from my untimed practice. So now I'm more effective at identifying those time bandits. I know which ones are going to cost me more time, and I know which ones I might want to Sesame Street. You know what I mean by Sesame Street, right? Are you with me? Letter of the day. Okay. All right. Sidebar. Statistically speaking, use the same letter. If you're guessing, pick the same letter all the way down. Okay. Have you heard that before too? Absolutely. Another reason for timed practice is your hand starts to get a cramp and your writing gets sloppy. We can't have that happen. Okay. Writing does get sloppy as it kind of goes on. Another thing that I would point out that I didn't put on the slide, and I should have put on the slide, is that when we're looking at timed practice, that 1 hour piece is pretty easy to manage, but that 2:15 is not as easy to manage. And so if you spend way too much time on synthesis, what I have seen before with my students is that argument when it's teeny tiny like this. Okay. So that timed practice lets you see what does that feel like and how do you know where you need to get to at what timeline? Okay. Are you with me? Any questions? Any thoughts? Anything in the chat at all? Okay. So we talked about why timed practice, and we're going to look at the multiple choice section, and then we're going to look at the FRQ after that. So I have a game for you. Would you like to play a game with me? Okay, this little game is called Time to Climb, and it's just to kind of see what you have in mind and what you know about the test. So go ahead and pick your character. It's fun with the sound too. So, and I'm actually not going to play on my screen because I don't want to give you any kind of answers or anything for you. But go ahead on your screen, pick your character, and join me in my little game. It's like similar to Kahoot, but so much better. And it's Halloween themed, which is so cool. Okay, so this does have sound to it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start the game. Okay, so I want you to go through, answer these questions. It does set to a timer, so it will time out after about 30 seconds. And that will help us kind of as we progress through it. So are you ready? Here we go. Let's see what you know. Oh, look at you guys moving. May 13th, guys, that was your answer here. All right, the multiple choice section has 45 questions. What percentage of your score comes from the multiple choice? That one is 45. Okay, next question. What is the time length for the FRQ section? So all of them. What's the time length for the FRQ section? I think you know this one. All right, 2 hours and 15 minutes. That is the time limit that you're looking at there. Which of the following describes the new type of multiple choice questions that you will see on the exam? What are you going to see on the exam? This one might be kind of tricky because I don't know if maybe your teachers have gone over it or if you've looked into it. All right, these are going to be questions about the writing process. Questions about the writing process, similar to what you find on the PSAT. Next question, what is the percentage of the score that comes from the FRQ? So what's the percentage that comes from the FRQ? So that's kind of tricky because we just talked about what the multiple choice was. Ooh, it's close. I can see the scores on my screen. Okay, you ready? See how it works. How many passages will there be that are included in the multiple choice section? How many passages are you going to have? It's 5. You will have 5 passages. All right. Are you ready? Here it comes. Last question. True or false? The FRQs must be done in the order they are presented. FRQs must be done in the order they are presented. What do you think? That is false. That is false, actually. With that, you can do them in whichever order you choose, the ones you think that might be the most exciting. So look at this. We have a winner. Congratulations. You win a prize basket. What is it they say on the internet? The satellite radio. You win a prize basket full of low budget, no budget goodies. So what did you guys think about that? Did you enjoy the game? What I love about the game is that it lets me see kind of where you guys are and what your knowledge is as we go through it and as we kind of progress through it. So super awesome. I'm so excited. Did you guys love that? I loved playing Time to Comp. Okay, so we have access to the CED outline for the types of questions based on the skill categories. So hopefully your teacher has gone over the skill categories with you. And if not, this information is available in the link on the CED, which was shared with you at the very beginning. So you should have a tab with that information there, okay? So logistics about the multiple choice. It is 45 questions. You do have 1 hour. Now, this is a decrease from the original question. Most of my students would tell me that they got to about 45 anyway. So I think that this decrease in time is really going to be helpful in the students being able to get through that test. So the arrangement is that the questions are going to be presented in 5 sets. They're going to be shorter sets with 23 to 25 reading questions asking you about the analysis of nonfiction, and 20 to 22 that ask you to read like a writer. So these are the ones that are about the writing process that I talked about, okay? So pacing. Now, full disclosure, okay? So College Board has come out with the new question types, and we received a message that said that full-length AP Language and Composition multiple choice exams will be available to teachers to use with their students in March or April. But your test is in May. So we don't have a test from College Board right now that gives you that full experience, okay? Trust me, your teachers are just as frustrated as you are. But that aside, there are some sample questions in that CED, so you can go through and you can look at them. And then, of course, your teacher has the AP Classroom. Now, we're looking at this, and this is just kind of an estimate. The reading part is probably going to be where you want to spend the bulk of your time, okay? So if we're looking at pacing, the passages where you really have to read it, we wanted to kind of think that that should be about half. And so if you plan to spend about 17 minutes on the first and second passage, those are going to be the reading skills that you're going to look at, okay? So then 3, 4, and 5, those are the questions that are going to be over the writing process. And these are the ones that, again, they're supposed to be, we've been told they're similar to the questions that you see on the PSAT. So if you kind of break it down, you may not need to spend as much time on those. Once your teacher has the full-length AP test that is released, I am certain that you're going to be using those in class, and that will help you out along the way. But looking at the sample questions and monitoring your time on AP Classroom assessments will also be a huge help for you. So is there any question on the pacing for this right here? Not right now? Okay. So a couple of sample stems, just because I wanted you to kind of see what they look like. Now, in that document, the CED that I sent to you at the very beginning, it is on page 126. Okay, so you should see on page 126 some of the questions that you have. And in this, you can just kind of see which of the following describes the writer's exigence. In the opening paragraph, what is the contrast? And then primarily, what is the function of that? In context, these lines are used to support which of the claims. The following, if placed where, would capture the audience interest and provide the effective intro. And then, of course, in the sentence, whatever sentence or sentences and those lines in there, the writer wants an effective transition from the intro to the main idea, which achieves that purpose. So when you're looking at these question types, it can help you with that untimed practice first, but then as you move into timed practice, it'll help you a little bit later. So, questions so far? Going to truck right on along. Okay, so my question to you is, how are you going to practice for the multiple choice section? What are you thinking? What are you going to do? What does that practice look like for you, especially knowing that the standards have changed? What are you going to do? I'll give you just a minute to kind of respond. In-class practice, okay? Try old exam anyway, all right? Buy supportive books. Probably see what my teacher recommends, AP Classroom. Absolutely. So I think that all of these are great strategies. In-class practice is going to be a huge help to you once the new review book comes out in December. Absolutely. Let's get this new book. We're all like, send it to me last week. I think AP Classroom is going to be a huge help for you with looking at your specific multiple choice elements. Do ask your teachers. The College Board actually has a forum for teachers, and so we can ask each other questions. I mean, I'm on it. I can't even tell you how many times a day I go into my College Board forums and look at it and see what other teachers have posted and just kind of get some ideas from that. But then I think that if you are going to buy the support books, I would caution you. The rubrics, the most recent revised rubrics came out last Friday. So not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And for some schools, that doesn't really matter. But like my school, we had already been in school for 10 weeks before the final new released rubrics came out. So if you are going to buy those books, just keep that in mind. Old exams is a great strategy as well. What I want you to think about though, when you're using those old exams, and this is true if you're using some of the older ones in your classroom, which your teachers probably will use because I plan to use them, the questions about vocabulary in context aren't going to be there. So those are kind of taken out. And then there's supposed to be some changes to the accept questions. And again, we'll know more about these when they come out to us, but that should be helpful. And then you shouldn't have any questions that are specific about a specific device by name. Now, there might be some that kind of tell you what it is. Again, this is what we've been told. We don't have a full-length practice test, but I've kind of gone through the questions on AP Classroom too, so I think that's helpful. So any other thoughts or questions on this before we move on? All right. But we will all be looking for that book in December. Okay, so let's play pretend. I like to think of it as multiple choice Monday, okay? And so you can take one released passage with questions and answer that per week. The vocab and footnote questions are gone, like I kind of mentioned in the last one, but pace yourself. Figure out where you are so that you can start to identify the time bandit questions. Many of the questions are still the same. You just have fewer of the types of questions that you're going to see on those release practice ones because of the fact that they're adding in this new category of questions. That doesn't mean the old test is invalid. It just means that some of the questions aren't going to be there, and it means that there are other questions in addition to this. So anything you do can help you a lot more. So then you want to review your answers. Track your answers. When you get them wrong, understand why you had it wrong. Some of our greatest growth comes from understanding why we were wrong so that we don't make that mistake again. So, multiple choice Monday sound like a good idea? We at Fiveable are working on creating more resources for you so that as College Board communicates with us, we can come up with some more resources and more examples of multiple choice questions. But we do have some streams that are available using different questions. So if you're a Plus member, go ahead and log into that and look at the streams for the multiple choice element. If you're not, then that's okay. You can still jump in and you can maybe join if you're interested in doing that. And you can look at our calendar, sign up for some of those multiple choice streams. We do have some practice ones as well, and that'll help you out. So now that we've talked about multiple choice, it's time to talk about writing. Are you super excited about that? Okay, let's look at it. Logistics of the writing. First of all, you have 3 questions and you have 2 hours and 15 minutes that you are supposed to use to do this. You have a 15-minute reading period at the beginning, and then it is recommended that you use 40 minutes per essay. You have a total of 55% of your exam score is going to come from this, okay? So FRQ 1 is, question 1 is synthesis. That's going to give you multiple texts that you need to read and synthesize and formulate an argument. Number 2, FRQ 2 is the rhetorical analysis. That's the stream, the mini series that Fiveable is going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. It's all on rhetorical analysis, so you might want to join that. Question 3 is on argument. And in many cases, because schools have focused on argumentative writing across the country, your teacher may not do that one first. They may save that one toward the end. Now, some teachers do that one first because they don't think they're going to need as much time on that argument, or they think that they're going to use that structure to kind of help. Now, I do want to explain this to you. There is a new set of rubrics, the new rubrics, which came out about a week ago. They are edited on the College Board website from, it says September 19th is the date that they did that, but it wasn't uploaded until October. So we have that information available. So what are the details? With the synthesis, you do have a 15-minute read time. I think that is very helpful because you can kind of go through and get some ideas and start to formulate your plan. If you finish reading early, start writing. It's totally okay to do that. It's your time. Do remember you need a blue or a black pen for writing that essay, okay? So 40 minutes for your write time. You're gonna have 6 to 7 texts, including 2 visual. At least 1 is gonna be quantitative. And then, of course, there's supposed to be around 500 words for each one. So that's kind of a good piece of information there. Rhetorical analysis. Again, 40 minutes write time, and you're looking at a nonfiction text. You are going to analyze those language choices. You're going to contribute to how they contribute to the meaning and the purpose of the text. And then argument is a 40-minute write time. Now, this one I would caution you on, and we're going to kind of look at what those expectations are here in just a minute. But I would caution you on looking at the argument, because sometimes what we see is we become very emotional and very passionate about our argument and about our claims, and we go off, or our logic kind of falls by the wayside. So when we do our mini series on argument, you should definitely be a part of that, because we're going to look at some great strategies on it as well. So writing wisdom, just something to think about as you start thinking about this written part of the test, is you are responding. You are not restating the prompt, okay? You are responding to it. Don't repeat the same thing. Now, it's totally okay to use some of those same words from the prompt in there. Obviously, you don't want it to look like you just copied it and filled in the blank, but you are to respond to it, okay? In particular, what you've probably done in your writing in the past has been a lot of summary. And in this case, it's not going to be a lot of summary. It needs to be the evidence that is an analysis of the text. And it has to be related to that thesis that you just created, okay? Your commentary needs to be well developed. Make sure that it's consistent and that it explicitly explains the relationship between your evidence and your thesis, okay? We're going to, as we go through our streams, we'll have some sentence frames for you that you can use to kind of help you out with those. And I think that's a great thing to think of. And then the last thing I would remind you is the sophistication point. On the new 141 rubric, the last one is sophistication. Either you got it or you don't. So think about it. Make sure that you've got that concession. Make sure that you've got a rebuttal or refutation. Situate the argument in a broader context. Talk about the effective rhetorical choices. Use your own effective rhetorical choices as you build your response. And then have an effective prose. So, as we think about this, I have another question for you. How do you plan to study for the FRQs? What is your technique for the FRQs? What are you going to do? Use class essays. Practice, look at Sam. Oh my goodness, mimic the better ones. That's a great strategy. I love that. What other thoughts? Not sure. I understand. It's still kind of new for a lot of us there. We've been allowed to write essays in class and revise them the first time. I think that that's a huge point, having the opportunity to revise. Do you do peer review with those? Probably so. I think peer review can be a huge help, kind of as you look at it and as you go through coming up with just having a writing partner, even if it's not someone in the class, someone else that can look at it, that can identify where your strengths are and where you kind of want to work from. You know what none of you guys said? None of you guys said you were going to use Fiveable. And Fiveable's doing the live feedback thing. So we've got a live feedback coming up with one of our AP teachers. So we talked about that one kind of at the start. But I'll send that in an email so you have that. That's one that you can look at there. Absolutely. Looking at essays from the past is a huge help. We do that in my classroom as well. One thing that I would say to you is the new rubrics. Realistically, good writing is good writing. So under the old rubric, we did have that 9-point structure. And this one does have very much more specific pieces to it, like the thesis statement point and the sophistication point. So you definitely see those elements there for you in comparison to the other one. But good writing is good writing. So you can still use those essays from the past that score in that 7, 8, 9 realm, and that can help you along the way. Now, tiny thing, if you haven't noticed it already, the FRQs from 2018 and 2019 were added, I'm not sure what day, but in the last few days, I can't remember, but in the last few days, they did add those to College Board. Okay. Now, I personally, I'm planning to use those for instruction in my classroom. And I'm going to do exactly what you just said. I'm going to have my students look at them in stations, analyze them, critique them, and go through the commentary and find out what it is. That's something that I plan to do. But if you are wanting to kind of get out there and you're wanting to look at them and you're wanting to use this on your own, keep in mind that when you go into the classroom, if you've gone through this and done it on your own and you just, tell people the answers, they're not going to have the learning opportunity that you did. The fact that you're here tonight in this Fiveable stream with me tells me that you are willing to go the extra mile, that you're willing to do what you need to do to take the ownership of your learning. So when you move into that classroom situation, ask your teacher questions. I love when my students ask me questions. And think about when you move into that classroom assignment and your teacher pulls out, hey, here's the 2018, make sure that you're not kind of sharing that out with the class. You can ask coaching questions and that sort of thing, but give them the same opportunity to learn it, because you just happen to be here with me and I happen to be saying, hey, this information's here, go get it. And they don't have that advantage. Okay? So, questions on that? All right. Moving right along. Let's play pretend, okay? Now, with the pretend lesson here, I want you to analyze the prompt and then create a plan on a rotating schedule, okay? So try a week A, you're going to look at a synthesis. Do 15 minutes to read it and annotate it, come up with a plan, and then compare your plan to the highly effective examples, okay? Do the same thing week B. Try to spend like 30-ish minutes over the course of the week. I think that's a really realistic goal for you. So when you're looking at RA, 10 minutes to go through, read it, and analyze it, come up with a little plan. Argument, 5 minutes. It's a much shorter text usually. Read it, analyze it, come up with a plan, and then compare your plan. As you start to see the plan that the other people have, now, okay, to be clear, when I say plan it, take the sample essays and reverse outline them. Go through the essay and say, okay, this is their thesis statement clearly. What is their topic sentence? What is the first piece of evidence? So create an outline from that draft that is presented, and that's going to help you to see what you need to put in your plan, okay? So that's just kind of one thing that you can think about as you move forward. Now, as you get more comfortable with your plan, one thing that is going to help you is if you actually start to write the essay. That is something that will be there for you, okay? That way you can spend time writing the essay, and then as you learn the rubrics, go through and actually score your essay with the rubric. Ask somebody else to look at it with the rubric. That can be a really powerful tool, because when you know the rubric, you know exactly what you've got to do to get the score that you're trying to get, and that's great. So rotate through all of the prompts. Now, I would say start at the older ones and kind of move forward. And the reason that I would suggest that is because, number one, the newer ones do have the new rubric on it, but you want a lot of practice. And we don't have a lot of samples using these new rubrics right now. So starting at the old ones, looking at that writing can help you as well. Any questions about our play pretend on Wednesday writing? Okay, so Monday is going to be multiple choice Monday, and then Wednesday is going to be writing Wednesday. Now you can do it on whatever day of the week works for you, but I like alliteration, and that works cool. So, are you still with me? All right. So, the essay expectations. Just quickly wanted to kind of review them, make sure you know them. You want to respond to the prompt with a thesis that establishes a line of reasoning. You want to provide evidence from at least 3. Now, I always tell my students, go for at least 4, because you can talk about them in passing or you can talk about them in detail, okay? So I always say go for 4, but the rubric says at least 3, or that's been the tradition or the history of it. And then explain the relationship between the evidence and the thesis, and demonstrate an understanding of the rhetorical situation of those texts and of that event or that topic that's being addressed in the synthesis question, and use appropriate grammar and punctuation in communicating that argument. So those are the general expectations there. Excuse me. The rhetorical analysis expectations for FRQ2 is going to give you a passage that's nonfiction, of course, prose, and they're advertising that it will be 600 to 800 words, and then you will write an essay that analyzes the author's rhetorical something, okay? So it might say the rhetorical faculties, the rhetorical choices, the rhetorical elements, rhetorical devices, all of those things, okay? So your expectations, what you need to make sure that you do is to respond with a clear thesis statement. Make sure that you say, hey, these are the author's rhetorical choices, okay? Use evidence to develop and to support your claim about their claim, okay? So it's your claim about theirs. So we're really getting in the brain there. And then demonstrate understanding of that rhetorical situation again. Of course, the rhetorical situation of the article, but the rhetorical situation that you are having to write in, and then using appropriate grammar. So the last one is the argument expectations, okay? So this is FRQ 3. My students tell me they do this one first and that it helps them in the long range. Some of my students say that they do this one first. And if that's your technique, that's your strategy, you'll know as you've gone throughout the course of the semester or the year and you've been practicing with these. So it gives you a short literary or rhetorical concept or an idea, and then you argue a position using that as evidence and using some other elements as well. Now, we will have a focus on argument coming down the way as you check the calendar. And of course, if you've signed up for email notifications, you'll get those as well. But you want to make sure that you respond with a clear thesis and a clear line of reasoning, okay? Now, I know that you've been taught defend, qualify, and refute. Or if you haven't, you're probably going to hear those things in the very near future. But I always tell my students, don't qualify, because if you qualify, you may not have a clear position, and you might say, well, it's kind of okay here, but it's really not okay here. And then in the end, you're like, okay, so are you for it or against it? We don't really know. So think about that as you move forward. Qualification is a great thing to have and to do, and I think as you grow in that throughout the course of the semester, you'll be able to determine whether you need to steer clear from that or whether you can effectively qualify an argument. And then, of course, you have to establish the relationship between the evidence and how it supports your thesis, and to demonstrate the understanding of the rhetorical situation pertaining to the ideas from the prompt. And then, of course, grammar and punctuation, communicating your argument. So, questions on that? All right. So, all in all, is there a benefit to time practice? Absolutely. You knew that immediately from the get-go because you told me that that was your preference, was that time practice. But really, I just kind of want to reiterate a few things. And I want to reiterate a few things that focuses on the use of the writing questions, okay? Number one is handwriting. They're going to try really hard to read what you've written. And if they've been at it as long as I have, they're going to have enough common sense and wherewithal to figure out what you're trying to say. But in our one-to-one world, sometimes our handwriting is just crazy. So the timed writing lets you practice your handwriting. And if you do it in that 2 hour and 15 minute, it lets you practice your handwriting while your hand is starting to cramp. It lets you see which type of pen you need to use to avoid smears. And I know that sounds petty, but it's something that you want to think about before May 13th. You're going to know which question is going to take you more time. If you know that your synthesis is going to be the most challenging one, go for it. Do that first. If you look at the argument and you're like, I got all kinds of stuff to say on this, do that one first. Just remember to regulate your time because you want to make sure that you have enough for every essay. You do not have to do them in order. So go through and pick the ones that you feel are going to be your strongest ones first. If you can do that, you're going to be doing really well in the long run. That's varying the order of the responses if needed. So, all right, I have another question for you. Our goal tonight was to think about timed practice and untimed practice, and to give you some structures and strategies, some things that you can try to help you increase your scores. So I want you to reflect on your learning. What's up with time practice? What do you need to do? How are you going to prepare? How has tonight given you some ideas moving forward? What do you think? Okay, I know the new questions. Another minute there. Yeah, academic stamina is one that I think is very important and it's often overlooked. But that's true on anything, even with taking the ACT, for example. Do more of the time practices and figure out how to break down the passages faster. The more practice you have with passages, the faster you're going to get with that. Go through and look kind of at the general idea and then break it into categories. You can generally find some kind of theme that comes from the beginning and then something from the middle and something from the end that you can use to help think about how the author communicates that message and how it relates to the effectiveness. Here's another thing I would say. Some schools actually do a Saturday test run, usually in January or February, and so you can look at the Saturday time as the ability to see it from the very beginning to the very end. Mine, I personally, sometimes our school in the second semester we do our state tests as well, and the state test block has to be longer, and so my students will actually use those longer blocks to kind of help out with that. You said you're going to try to write the précis for the rhetorical essays for practice and get a feel for the types of questions and try to get my teacher to open up AP classroom questions. That's a great strategy. The rhetorical précis is, I love it. In fact, I actually am doing a blog post for Fiveable about rhetorical analysis, and the rhetorical précis is something I'm going to talk about there. And then I'm doing a few of the lessons on rhetorical analysis essays. And for the introduction paragraph, I'm gonna start out by talking about that rhetorical précis and how you can use it as an introduction to start you. So that's a great idea, super, super awesome. And then you said to get a feel for the question types. That will help you kind of as you move forward too, because when you understand what those question types are, bonus points is that your brain starts looking for those in the passage anyway. So that's a big help. And then you said trying to get your teacher to open up AP Classroom. Absolutely. Ask your teacher about AP Classroom. It is a fantastic tool. I've used it with my students. We're going to be using it again this week. It's a great resource and a great data point. There's not a lot of training on it, so your teacher, it may be that they're just kind of waiting to get there to this point, but there are 9 progress checks, 9 personal progress checks, 1 to go with each recommended unit from AP Lang. So you will be able to kind of pull that through. So any other questions or thoughts or comments on that one? Okay. So our goal tonight, our learning intention, we talked about that one. Why timed practice? We reviewed the logistics of the multiple choice test, and then we reviewed the kind of the expectations and some strategies, talked about the let's play pretend to come up with multiple choice Monday. And then we reviewed the FRQ logistics and expectations, talked about some strategies there for what you might try. And we talked about the let's play pretend with the writing Wednesday rotation with week A and week B. So we had a lot that we talked about tonight. And just kind of a reminder, our goal was that you could create a personal goal that was going to help increase your scores on the AP Lang exam. Do you feel like you're able to do that? Did we master that? All right. What do you think? Do you have a better understanding of the expectations, like the logistics and the expectations of the test? Do you have a better understanding right now? All right. We got a couple not really answering yet. They're not really sure, but it looks like the majority of us have a much better understanding of the logistics and of the expectations. So that is a huge plus because sometimes just knowing what to expect can be a huge help. All right, do you feel like you have been armed with a few strategies and a few ideas that are going to help the test be more approachable for you? Have we given you some ideas or strategies that are going to help make this more approachable for you? What do you think? Couple thinking on that. Fantastic. That's great. I love seeing the growth that occurs. Okay, so here is just kind of as we round it out tonight. I appreciate you being with me and staying with me this whole time. And I really appreciate you trying something new as an interface, because if you've been doing, some of you guys said you've done a few of the different Fiveable streams, and you know that sometimes when we as the streamers are trying to get some interaction, it can be kind of challenging. And so I really appreciate you guys joining with me tonight and trying this new interface. If you have any questions for me at any point, you can reach out. Of course, we've already talked about Think Fiveable on social media, but I'm on social media as well. And just to kind of give you a little bit of who I am Stephanie Kirk. I am an AP language and composition teacher in Blount County Schools in Maryville, Tennessee, and of course a Fiveable instructor as well, and then a few other things as well. Looks like we have a question that just popped up. Absolutely, you can ask a question. Absolutely. What's your question? I'll leave that going just so that you can ask a question at any point. But I do want to see about getting a little bit of feedback. So I'm going to leave this open, and whenever you're done, you can hit submit and you can close out that window. The question that you have, go ahead and put that question on there, and then I will look at it and answer it and make sure everybody gets it. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you joining us, and I'll hang out here just for a minute to see what that question is that pops up. If you have any other questions, you're welcome to let me know what those are too. In our form, as you kind of scroll through it, down at the bottom, I did ask you, what do you think about using this interactive interface? And the very, very last question, what are the questions, comments, and concerns that you may have that we here at Fiveable can help you with? Because again, we're here for you. All right, I don't have anything coming through on the question. Oh, here we go. Question is, so when I'm doing the multiple choice, I can always narrow the correct answer down to 2 answers, but then I always pick the wrong answer. Do you have any tips for distinguishing between very similar answer choices? Yes, actually I do. That is a fantastic question. So this happens to a lot of us. We can narrow it down to one of 2, and then it seems like we second guess ourselves, or for whatever reason, we pull the other option out. And the biggest thing that I actually learned from another AP instructor. And she said, you know, the thing is that you get down and you're like, I think this is it, but I also think this is it. And in the AP world, it's either all right or it's all wrong. And so what I asked my students to do on that multiple choice part is, when you narrow it down to 2, go and figure out which one is 100% true and which one is just mostly true. And sometimes that comes down to the details that are actually in the question. So you might see that it'll say that the student said something when in the text it was really the teacher that said it. Or it might say, you know, in the mother's letter to her son, and it was a song or something instead. So it's usually something little that is a tiny little thing that's a tweak, because of course their goal is to have a correct answer and to have a close distractor. And so once you get it down to those 2, looking at it and thinking which one is 100% right is going to be the one that you want to go with. So try that strategy. But that was a great question. Thank you so much for asking. All right. I have no new questions. You want me to take just another minute and wait? I can do that, just in case. Hey, no problem. My pleasure. We're here to help you. I will say this, multiple choice is something a lot of us are worried about. And as those full length multiple choice tests come out, and as we, your Fiveable team in AP Lang, put together some more samples when College Board gives us more, because we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. We don't want to lead you astray. And so as those resources come out, we will definitely modify streams and include more streams that focus on multiple choice. With those types of streams, it is helpful if you go to the link first, because like, for example, with this stream, there are several different resources that I thought you might find interesting or that you might want. And so they were up there in advance. All right. Hey, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you being here with me. It's Stephanie Kirk from Fiveable AP Lang. I'm going to sign out. Good luck on your test. We know you've got it.